Do you know what? I'm doing 6,
Yeah.
and like I'm 24.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe I didn't.
24.
No, I'm sorry. The youth. What's gonna look like when he's 44? Probably the same. The whole vegan malarkey. Fermented soybeans pressed into a block. Very easy to make.
Messy but good.
Yeah, they are.
They're delicious, actually.
Do you want a bet? No. Veganism and plant-based cooking is the future of cooking. You lot, actually. The 20-Minute Vegan is a cookbook.
Go.
So we're here today with Calum Harris.
Hello.
Hi, Callum.
Hi, how are you, Faye?
I'm very well. So Calum is one of the members of Plantboiis. He is famed for being on the Great Cookbook Challenge with Jamie Oliver.
The Great Cookbook Challenge with Jamie Oliver.
That's it, I got it.
That's the one. You did get it.
And also he has just released an excellent cookbook, which we're going to talk about today.
Like you summed it up nice, cool.
Perfect. So Callum, tell us a little bit about your vegan journey, how you got into it, how you got into cooking.
It's mad, because it's like, where do you start? But I guess for me, I didn't go down the usual route of watching Cowspiracy or going to like a farm and seeing what went on. It came from a barbecue. So I went to a barbecue and there was a family friend there who was vegan, and that's all fine and all. And I thought, okay, vegan, whatever, cool, you do you. What surprised me was that he didn't look like a vegan. He was a Greek guy called Pan. He was very muscular. He looked like he took care of himself. But the key factor as well is that last year he had a really severe back problem, or the year before in the time. So he had a severe back problem, and that year, the following year at this barbecue, he was somewhat healed. He could move, go gym, like live his life, and that really surprised me. And when he was telling me it was all down to do with his diet, I was taken aback, because for me, I was brought up thinking to be somewhat healthy, you need meat, you need dairy, you need fish, and you need like that balanced diet.
Yeah.
When really a whole foods plant-based diet is genuinely like a great way of eating and possible to survive on.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like, yeah, just like it's so beneficial to obviously do this, like give it a go.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, cool. I'm like 19, I think. So I was like, yeah, people were going out and doing God knows what. I may as well try something experimental. So I did it for a month, and I thought, okay, if I just do it for a month, follow whatever I can, and if I feel lethargic or I don't feel myself, or if I wither away as the parents worry, that's going to happen, then I can just go back and I can maybe just reduce my intake of meat. That didn't happen.
Good.
So I think
You haven't withered away.
we're now 5 years into it, and I feel like over time I've built up my like cooking repertoire, and it kind of got me inspired to help other people go through that process, because I feel like when you do go vegan, it usually has to come from within, and it usually is an external force that drives it. So whether you watch a documentary or you have something in your life that kicks in, or something kicks in emotively, whether it be like, I don't know, you witness something, or whatever happens, there'll be something extraordinary that kind of comes in. And I feel like that's great, but the way we're going to be successful with our movement is by getting our normal people that don't necessarily pay attention to the whole vegan malarkey, as they might call it, and really just make it about the food.
Yeah.
And so that was my whole priority when I first started. And
I mean, that's the easiest way in, isn't it? Let's be honest. If you eat something good, that's it, and you're like, oh, it's vegan, and then you get something else good, and you're like, oh, that's vegan too, and it's like a slow process.
Exactly, and also it's not forcing it as well. It's like there's like it's psychology in it. It's like people don't like being told what to do.
No.
So if you tell someone to not like pick up that food because of an effect, like let's say, oh, we shouldn't eat that because of what it's doing to our environment and things like that, then you might get the occasional person to go, oh, you're right. But 9 times out of 10, you're like, okay, cool. And then you just move on with your life.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is what happens. So I feel like it's important to speak through your actions
Yeah.
rather than force people with what you're saying.
That's true. And I mean, you work in social media. You know exactly what comments are like. You do something, we do investigations and you're like, I'm going to go eat your bacon sandwich. And you're like, oh, come on.
It's true. And like, I feel like you can't please everyone with what you're doing. And it's like, for me, I'm an activist through my food.
Yeah.
So I believe really veganism and plant-based cooking is the future of cooking. Mm-hmm. Full stop.
Yeah.
And I will do the best I can through the food I make to give that mission, get the mission across. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if I then went on to do activism and things like that, I would be doing a half-assed effort, if you will. I feel like there's so many other better people that can do that job.
Yeah.
And I'd rather recommend those resources than to do it all myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you get your message across in your way?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, so when you first went vegan, how was it? Were your friends supportive or your parents? Or?
I mean, it was kind of like a depth into the unknown, in honesty. So I felt like my mum was worried I was going to go gaunt.
Yeah.
And my dad sort of went, go on, have a go. He actually had like a stint into plant-based cooking and he did lose a bit of weight from it, but then I felt like through his habits it sort of went away. So shame, I guess. He could have had a cookbook. But I felt like I got more questions about why I was doing it than how I was going to do it.
Yeah. And
that how part was more or less my remit because no one really knew what they were doing because they hadn't done it before, especially in my family and friends. So I just sort of thought, okay, I'm on my own here. I've got somewhat of a neutral opinion. Yeah. And I thought, let me just do my thing and hopefully things work out the way they're meant to be. And it has, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I feel like as well, like my support network, I'm very lucky to have. So like anything I am doing usually like gets met with realism. Yeah. So it's like it more or less would be positive and it's less dismissive than other friend groups or families would be. I'm lucky to have that. So I guess, whatever I'm doing is usually hopefully met with some sort of like, okay, that's cool. And you could do this,
this isn't crazy.
Rather than this is mad, but you're doing it all wrong, or like things like that. So, yeah.
Perfect. And most people know you from Plantboiis as well. So, how did that kind of come about for you?
That was a fun lockdown project, and I call it a project because it is still like for me, it's like still our working baby. Mm-hmm. That came from an Instagram group chat. So that was like I'd say about summer of 2020. We were all still outdoors, indoors, not knowing whatever the government was going to tell us to do or where to go. So I guess when I was making food content, I found that there were a lot of big accounts making their content and already established themselves as a presence. And for me, I didn't necessarily find a friend group that I felt like I could relate to until I started to obviously look around Instagram. And then through there, I started to meet people that weren't only vegan and weren't only on that sort of support or wavelength. They were just normal. Yeah. And for me, I wanted to get on with people that had veganism as their subtext in their lives. I mean, we all love what we're doing. We have like our reasons and our missions to do it. However, you can't lose your integrity as a person. And I say that for anyone with like a hobby or things like that. It's like there's being obsessive with it, but then there's also losing yourself within it. Yeah. And I feel like your identity shouldn't necessarily be your actions. Agreed. It should be somewhat a part of it. Yeah. So I was lucky to meet all those lads through Instagram and whatnot. And one of the lads, Ben, decided to essentially make a group project and potentially make content together. And Johnny, who's Johnny Meatless, Ben's Vegan Kitchen, by the way, and Johnny Meatless. Johnny put all the boys together because he knew a lot more people and he met up with a lot more people. I was like sheltered in my Kent life, so I was like sort of not knowing like who was what. I think I met a few of them through socials. And from there we just started making food content, made more content together, and we're all friends. Yeah, well, like also it's like we've all individually grown our accounts, which is really for me what I wanted, because all those lads have their own special talent and way of like making content, and we're all different. Like we all make, like there'll be stuff that you'll look at and you'll be like, wow, like that, like you don't necessarily have to know Plantboiis to follow each of them, which I think is brilliant, because we still get on and have our group, but then also there's elements where you're like, if you like that kind of cooking, you go to this person, or if you want more comedic stuff, go to me, or if you want like someone cooking with their nan, go to someone else.
Which one cooks with their nan?
Giuseppe.
Okay, Giuseppe.
He's a lovely man, like honestly. But yeah, that kind of thing is brilliant to have. So yeah.
It's great, and it also like shatters a lot of the myths and the stereotypes as well, because you see lots of just different guys doing their own thing, and it's great.
Well, exactly, like we're not idiots. Like a lot of our audience are vegan and female.
Yeah.
So it's about trying to increase that male percentage really, to show that you don't have to be a proper activist to do what you're doing. You can just enjoy your life and live your life in your way and support veganism.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, why do you think it is that so many men just don't want to be vegan? Like, why?
I think there's a stigma on it being too feminine.
Yeah.
And I feel like anytime, I think what it really boils down to is emotion, showing emotion. And I feel like now, obviously, it's 2023 at the time of recording, innit? So we're a lot more in keeping with the times and expressing ourselves and not being afraid to, express emotion or speak your truth in a way. So I guess the more our generation and sort of past generations start to become more open with it, the more likely they're going to join what we're doing. And
makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's the kind of way I think about it. It's like it just boils down to how like that emotion, because I feel like veganism is quite emotional when you do start, because you are doing it for something. You're doing it whether it be if you're emotional about the environment or the animals or your health, like you are having like a sort of passion towards that. So yeah, that can be perceived in a way that's like, oh, I don't want to necessarily do that. Who cares? I'll just like, who cares about Derek the cow? I'll just have my Wagyu ribeye or whatever. But yeah, no, it's not about that.
Cool. No, that's good. So you ended up on Jamie Oliver's The Great Cookbook
Challenge. I
Challenge.
ended up on The Great Cookbook Challenge with Jamie Oliver. It's fine, don't worry. I've been ingrained. It's a real lovely part of my life. Like,
it's amazing. And you were a massive fan, weren't you, of his beforehand?
Yeah. Oh, I think
this could be awkward now.
No. I love Jamie. Like Jamie is like, he's the reason that a lot of cooks are where they are now. Yeah. He's also a lot of the reason why I got into cooking, because he approached it with such a realism and a sort of ease that I felt like I really benefited from. I genuinely feel like he's a top bloke. And I was lucky enough to meet and work with him in like a capacity where I was like, yeah, you're actually sound.
Didn't you call him Dad?
I did call him Dad. Yeah, I called him. He got playfully. I had a bit of banter. So basically, there's a point in the show, and you can watch this somewhere on Channel 4. But basically, there's a point in the show where you have your first dish, and you have to walk it to the judges. Okay, so you're walking from the back of this like studio to the front, complete and utter silence. For me, that's bloody awkward. I'm not about silences. Like I am one of those people that like if there's an awkward silence, I won't necessarily pause for it. I'll be like, so what else can we talk about? And like I'll frantically think of a subject. I'll be like, oh, do you like waffles? I don't know. But for me, it was like it kind of felt like that moment being in primary school and being dropped off at the gate by your mum. Yeah. So obviously Jamie Oliver's not a woman. He's not your mum. So he's not my mum, although that would be funny. But basically I thought, do you know what? I'm just, if this is the first and last time I put a dish down, I just want to say something funny. So I was like, hello, I brought my dad with me. And then what I didn't realise is when obviously he went back to like his studio bit, he called me a quote unquote little bastard.
Really?
Which, very funny, but also had to go through rounds of Channel 4 to put a little guidance on it. So it's like the only episode of that series with a guidance sticker saying cheeky humour.
Ooh.
I know, cheeky.
Very cheeky.
Yeah.
Indeed, Jamie Oliver, who'd have thought
You just
it?
think, yeah, that's me.
Ah,
I am the cheek of the humour. Yeah.
very good. The cheek of the humour.
I don't know what. Why not?
So tell us a little bit about the cookbook and how that came about.
Okay.
And,
Yeah. So when you start this, and it's very important to say that like I did want to do this as like my career, but you don't know when or why things are going to happen and how they happen. So for me, I wanted to make a cookbook, but I just never thought I would, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's always like, oh, I'd love to do that, and you just don't think you're going to do it. And it really, for me, the whole cookbook concept started from wanting to solve a problem. And I feel like anyone who's writing or anyone who's making things for food or whatever they're doing, the aim really should be try and like solve a problem with what you're doing. Like what are you trying to do with it? Like it's all well said and done to go like, okay, like I'll make this video and like it could do really well. But then if you want to sustain it, you then have to like sort of think about the people that are watching you and think what are they actually going to benefit from. So early in 2022, I started to make recipes that were 20 minutes. And for me, I wanted to focus on health and protein as well. And above all, not try and rely on meat or dairy alternatives. I set myself so many parameters in place so that when someone went on my page and looked at it, they were like, okay, that's a lot of problems solved. I can actually do that.
Yeah.
I didn't want that whole thing where it's like, oh, that's good, but I can't find this, or oh, that's good, but where's this type of vegan chicken you've used? Like, or like, oh, where's the juicy marble steak? Because like, that's a great example. It's like a lot of people, it's lovely, but like you can't necessarily like get a hold of that quite quickly.
Yeah, and you were right. You were saying as well, like it's fine in London or maybe Brighton, Bristol.
I mean, I'm lucky,
but
yeah. I'm London based, so like I can grab it if I need to be, but like
regionally, it's hard, isn't it?
Like if you live in Wolverhampton, you might have to rely on your one big supermarket, or like your several big supermarkets, or if that. So you kind of have to think about who's watching and like who's making it. Yeah. And like even internationally, like you could go to the Netherlands and they're like, we don't actually stock any of this.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, right, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it started, making videos, 20 minutes. I called it like 20-minute vegan, and that series started to do well. And from there, this is like, 2021, not 2022. All right. Yeah, but I started making videos of that, like, they started to do well, and it started to really build my page and presence. Through that, I then really thought, okay, that is then it. That's my idea. If I am to do a cookbook, it'd be 20-minute vegan recipes. Yeah. Because people are starting to notice and make the recipes, and it's solving a problem. Yeah. So will it work in a book? So I had that idea, and then around about September time of 2021, Jamie Oliver put on his Instagram that he was doing a cookbook challenge sort of show where you could win a cookbook deal with Penguin. And I was like, oh, I could potentially put my idea and basically meet Jamie Oliver and call him my dad. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't think anything of it, sent a video, edited it in like a social media style, which I think is important. Like, get yourself out there. You've got like a minute to really captivate people and get them in. So you've got to do your best of like trying to figure that out as well. So I did that. Few calls, got on the show. Yeah. Show aired early January 2022. I then carried on making recipes and whatnot. And then we started having discussions about a cookbook in April time. Yeah. It's also important to note, I did not win the show.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I came 5th. Top 5.
That's all right. yeah.
And also like the most successul vegan on that show, I'll have you know. So,
very good.
There was like 3 vegans on there with ideas.
It's incredible actually, isn't it?
I was like, no, so basically, started talking. Like obviously, like when you put yourself out on the public eye, people start going, okay, cool. We quite like this idea. And also like it's the whole thing. It's like you may not be right for that company, but you'll be
perfect for something else.
Yeah. So I found through obviously that show interest, and I ended up with Bluebird, which is like one of my dream publishers. Well, actually, if not the dream, because they publish people like Joe Wicks, Pinch of Nom, and they didn't necessarily have like a vegan author there. So I was kind of like, oh my God, this is like mental. Like I never thought when I started I'd be like the only like sort of vegan author of their imprint or something like that. So yeah, that's really how it came about. And then I spent the rest of the year locked up, making recipes and making sure things worked, and testing and writing, and really figuring out what people wanted to eat. And that's
And that's a whole thing in itself, isn't it? The process of testing the recipes, making sure that they can be recreated, like time and time again. There's like so much work goes into it, right?
That, and also it's like, you have to bear in mind, once all that's done, you then have to articulate how to do this in a way that kind of, captivates people. Because let's be honest, like, this is the first time I'm doing this, and like this may be the first time you get to know me. You may not know who I am social media wise, and that's cool. The aim is to have something that exists without the need of social media or the television show or anything like that. So it's just having me have this book. I wanted to make it so that anyone could pick it up and have a laugh with cooking, and it just so happened to be in plant-based.
Nice.
So I write a lot in my tone of voice. I make references to pop culture. I talk a lot about Harry Styles because I quite like Harry.
Why do you like Harry Styles so
I
much?
think he's a sound geezer.
Okay, fair.
And also he doesn't eat meat either.
Oh, does he not?
Nah, he's Doesn't make him like. I don't like him more because of that. I just think he's a sound guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
cool. And I mean, it's a really good point you actually make there, having the cookbook as a standalone thing, because you're really lucky. I mean, you've sort of told me earlier how lucky you are to be doing the social media and doing so well off it. But what for you do you want to do that kind of next? Do you think that's always going to be there? Or?
I think I'm going to go where the eyeballs are.
Yeah.
Like, you never know. In 5 years, we might all be doing content on VR.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. But I always just want to make good food, and I feel like I will hopefully do that in different mediums, whether it be like more books or telly or social media still, or I don't know. I think I'm not really, like, I don't want to speak it too much into existence because it can really fall flat if you're not careful. So I feel like I'm just going to ride it, and hopefully things happen, and hopefully people like me enough to want to keep supporting me, I guess.
Nice. I mean, and the book's doing really well already, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's
done the whole print run almost, hasn't it?
Well, it got, it done the print run. It went, when it came out, it went straight to #1 on Veggie and Vegan Amazon. It got past, like, I think it got into like the top 60s in terms of Amazon's best books. It was like 80 copies of a Sunday Times bestseller.
Amazing.
Which is sick, considering there was no TV done for it or anything like that. I had my face plastered on the tube as well.
Yeah.
So like I had like all these posters around. Like it was mental.
How
like,
weird was that, just seeing that when you walked?
It was kind of weird because like it would catch me off guard, like a jump scare in a horror film. Yeah. Like I'd walk around and I'd be like, oh my God, like what are you doing here? And it'd be the weirdest stations. It'd be like, I don't know, Tooting Beck. I'd go Tooting Beck and I'd be like, oh, I'm in Tooting. What? And then I'd be like, oh, I'm in Oxford Circus. So yeah, I feel I still get like giddy when I see myself.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm like, what the hell? But yeah, it goes to show sometimes that like when you do make something, it is the people that will decide like if it's a good book or not. Because like you can only do so much as a marketing thing, and I did not shut up about this book. I swear to you now, like I think from like November last year to now, I did not stop talking about it because I just love this book.
Good.
Not in a self-obsessed way either. It's just like if I picked it up and read it, like there's a lot of time and effort that went into it.
It's your passion as well, isn't it? And it comes across. I mean, even when you're doing your social media clips,
exactly.
You really do love what you're doing.
Definitely. And like also like things like the team that worked on it, like the photos are stunning, food style and everything from it, the design. There's a lot of work that got put into it, not just me, and by like people who genuinely like loved it. And I was like, no, that's mad, because you think you're doing too much sometimes or thinking too much of yourself. If you're in your own bubble and you're like, oh yeah, this is good. But when other people are like, no, this is good. You're like,
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
And they're 20 minutes and they're working. They're like, yeah. I'm like, fantastic. I'm like, cool.
Job done.
I'm off to the Bahamas. No, I'm joking. No, I'm not going. I'll stay there.
That's cool. So the book as well is going to be released in America.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, 2024. That's the plan.
No, it is. It is. It's all confirmed. It's going out January. I think they said Feb 13th, but it might be pushed forward to January 2nd. Okay. I'm paying attention on Amazon basically. I'm like, oh, the date keeps jumping. But yeah, no, it's coming out in America. It's out in UK. I believe it's being translated as well.
Amazing.
And I don't know what languages yet because I don't know what I can say. But I know it's going America.
That's good. So with the recipe book, tell me a few of your favourite ones in there if you have to pick them. And it's like Sophie's choice and choosing.
I'm going to have to flick through. But I mean, like, one example is probably the reason that they're in front of us. And if you are watching on YouTube, these are carrot cake protein balls from the book. We are going to eat them. Yeah. It's just, it makes for really poor audio. So we're not going to do that for your own ears. But that's a great recipe. I've got a butter chicken, which doesn't use chicken, it uses tofu. And I make a joke of that. I think it's called butter chicken. Well, actually not chicken, it's tofu, as a recipe. Then the peas on toast, a good mimic to avocado on toast, but actually more protein and actually genuinely nicer. It's got so much more flavour. I'm like, yes, go on. And it didn't cost you 16 quid in East London cafes. Very proper. And then I would go for I quite like the pea and mint orzo as well. That's like a little softie.
Yeah, nice.
One, I'm like, it's got like roasted courgettes on the top, or pan-fried courgettes. I'm like,
looks delicious. Yeah, I've tried one or two. I haven't tried that one yet. But
which ones have you tried?
I did the chickpea one.
Yeah.
The chickpea curry, was it the curry?
Yes.
That was lovely.
So that's the yellow one.
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, I did that. I did the yellow one, but that's all so far.
Oh, really?
But I will do more.
Yeah, I would.
not to offend you. I've tried one.
Who are you cooking from?
It was very nice.
Are you cheating on me?
I am cheating on you.
No, imagine, who is he? Or she?
It's a she.
Oh, no, I'm joking.
No.
Right, fair enough.
So you've partnered with a lot of the big food brands. How has that kind of come about?
It comes about through being an idiot online.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I feel like with me, when I work with people, I want to work with people that not only respect what I'm doing, but also I feel like people have got to know who they are. So I'm not just going to promote anyone on there. And also, you've got to have something that I really love. So I've worked with tofu because I feel like everyone loves tofu. Yeah. I've worked with Sainsbury's. I've worked with Wagamama. I've worked with, who else have I worked with? I've worked with, God, the list is ending. Manny Life, the peanut butter company. Vita Coco I've done some stuff for. They're people that are household brands or names that come through, and most of it comes from me just loving their product. Yeah. And using it as a consumer rather than going, who's going to offer me money?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people get lost with what they're doing sometimes, and it's important to go, okay, cool. Do you actually like this brand? Do you want to work with them? Do people use this brand? Yeah.
I mean, you get a lot of that with influencers, don't you? I think a lot of the older generation,
yeah.
Sometimes myself, cynically, I'm like, they're just selling their soul, these young people.
And it's obvious as well. Yeah. I feel like you've got to really if you're passionate about it, it won't be an obvious deal. Yeah. And I feel like one thing I try and do is make something that doesn't look like a brand deal. Mm-hmm. And it can be hard when you get people brands wanting to put budget and wanting to have a certain creative. But then I will just say, I'm not your guy to do that. I'd rather not do it and sacrifice what you're going to pay me if it's going to sacrifice my integrity in that video.
Nice.
So, yeah.
You were saying as well earlier, you refer to yourself as a cook.
I am.
You do not want to be a chef, is that right?
Yeah. I feel like social media gets people misconstrued, I guess. So they think that it can be a case of thinking about if you're bigger than what you are. Mm. And for me, I have been lucky to speak to many people that have worked in hospitality, are currently working in hospitality, or genuinely just put so much effort into what they're doing and have amazing restaurants and things, to the point where I know the amount of hours and time and effort that takes. And for me to then go on social media and call myself a quote-unquote chef would just be degrading to what they've done.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I am a cook because I learned through cookbooks, I learned through the internet, I learned through watching my mum cook and my dad cook, and just learning through those people, as opposed to being in the kitchen and slaving away and doing hours. And I feel like that kind of title should really be respected and reserved for the people who have earned their stripes. I feel like I have earned my stripes in a different way, but I would never call myself a chef.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And if people call me that, cool. Don't worry. It's fine. It's
like,
you get called names all the time. It's fine. Good and bad.
Definitely worse ones.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that you were telling me earlier that some of the kind of, not like some of the reactions that you get on Instagram are quite funny. You apparently can't hold a spatula, is that
I can't hold a spatula. Oh, okay. I tend to stir things weirdly, and that's purely because of the home-cooked learning nature. So I guess I do hold objects weirdly. I've had this since I was younger. Like I couldn't write I used to write like this once, like in a past life until I learned. And I feel like I hold things weirdly, and it's fine. That's the way I want to be, and like people will cook differently and do their style differently, and I feel like I'm just gonna do me. I don't care if it's weird. It's fine. It feels comfortable to me. Cool. It's not hurting anyone, is it?
No, exactly.
There you are. I'm like, yeah, cool.
So Callum, in your opinion, why should people go vegan?
For me, veganism and plant-based cooking is the future of cooking. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's going to be a benefit for people to get involved and really get stuck in with that idea of using vegetables and using pulses and beans to actually make a good, proper meal, rather than relying on what they're used to. And I feel like with every decade we have a new way of thinking, and I feel like this is the way of thinking for our future, and it's going to be benefit for people not just my age but for older ages or younger ages to really learn about how to cook and make a meal that's brilliant and healthy that helps our planet and protects our animals.
Yeah, amazing, because it's not sustainable, is it, the way like factory farming and things like that are operating at the moment. I mean, and that's in terms of like Viva as well. Do you know much about the charity?
I do know a bit about it, and I feel like if it weren't for people like yourselves, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing, because I really rely on a lot of other people to show that kind of activism. If you're a fan of me, you probably know, or like if you like my stuff, you know that like I don't push activism too much. I make it about the food. And if it weren't for people like yourselves doing that mission and really supporting those cases, I would have to do it.
Yeah.
And that would be absolutely fine, but I don't feel like I'll do as strong of a job as what you guys do.
Amazing. Thank you for
for
that. So should we try these balls?
All right, so these are carrot cake protein balls.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
Messy but good.
yeah, they are.
They're delicious, actually.
Oh, do you want a bit? No. We're not there yet. VR maybe, who knows?
That's delicious, thank you.
I try and like shove it in one, but also it makes for like a... Oh, whatever. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, it sounds like you're doing great at the moment.
Yeah,
let's see what.
Do you know what?
Next.
I'm doing sick.
Yeah.
And like I'm 24.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe I didn't like
24.
No, I'm sorry. The youth. What's gonna look like when it's 44? Probably the same. Genetics or vegan food. All that bloody all that soy cream. It's doing well. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no. I like it's kind of mad. Like you forget how much you've done.
Yeah, it's great. And you know, the cookbook's out now, and tell people where they can kind of follow you and how they can get a copy as well.
Yeah, I feel like if you do want to buy a copy, it's called the 20-Minute Vegan, and you lot, actually. The 20-Minute Vegan is a cookbook, and it's out on Amazon, WH Smith. It's in Asda and Sainsbury's, and it's about, you can get it in the link in bio, and if you're American, you can get it early next year. From Britain, buy it now. And that's it.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for chatting to us,
Well, thank you
Callum.
for having us.
No.
I appreciate it.
No, great.
Honestly, thank you.